And welcome back to the Delaware Boys Dynasty Football Podcast, Episode 2. Top right corner is your co-host, Steven, and my partner in crime, Ryan O'Dell, a.k.a. Deli. Deli, just for the fact, so we get this straight, do you like being called Ryan or Deli? In your friend circles, we always call you Deli, so I just figured I'd ask now.
Yeah, let's stick with Deli on here, too. That's fine.
Deli's good? Cool.
Yep.
So I'll call him as Deli from now on. But bottom right corner, you guys know this man. Frankie was here with us last week. We were talking quarterbacks, so I'm not going to make him reintroduce himself. But in my top left corner, I got a good friend of mine. We played fantasy football together for a long time. I'm going to let him take this from now on. Go ahead, buddy. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name's AJ. I've been playing fantasy football for about 15 years now. I got started in Dynasty about 9 or 10 years ago, I believe so. Ever since I got introduced to Dynasty, kind of faded redraft. I keep 1 or 2 redraft around just to do it with your buddies. Dynasty is definitely the way to go. There's definitely a lot more thought into it. It's a way of life, honestly. I became an addict. I've admitted that. Yeah. And I'm a huge Tampa Bay fan. I've been a ride or die with all the terrible quarterbacks that we've had, all the terrible coaches we've had. So it's been good to actually have a good team the last few years.
AJ, let me ask you a question. In your Dynasty experience, when did you make that switch from single QB to a super flex style league?
It was actually a buddy of mine. Frankie's in the league as well. We actually started Dynasty together at the same time. They actually was a single quarterback for the first, I think, 5 years, and then they went to a super flex on a league vote. I thought it was much better that way. You get more players involved. I think in Dynasty you got to have that structure. You got to do. It really values every position more. If you're only in a 10-man or 12-man league and you're only getting 10 or 12 quarterbacks starting, I don't think you're maximizing full potential to your league there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, we played in a league together, all three of us, and then we also play in a 14-man league together. We were talking about that the other day. In the 10-man league to your 14-man league, what's the biggest difference you notice in your roster construction?
Depth. Straight up depth. That's the biggest league I've ever done as far as in a competitive standpoint. QBs are the way to go. I stacked up. I won the league with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I got key pieces throughout the season. I used the format to my advantage with defenses being very valued in that league. I don't know if you guys recall that.
Yes, it was.
Defenses were actually getting as much as quarterbacks. So I stacked up and got New England and Dallas, and they just turned out to be tremendous for me. They were getting 28 to 37 points a week down the stretch, and I never looked back.
Advantage of them Stefan Diggs interceptions.
Literally, and J.C. Jackson, and it was basically having like 3 quarterbacks against you every week, and we had Mahomes and Allen already. I mean, it was tremendous.
Yeah, we had to have the commission change that this year.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane.
Yeah, that sounds backwards. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
It was his first year ever running a Dynasty, so it's definitely trials and tribulations there. So he'll learn, but it was a good experience, especially being a 4-man league. But like I said, it comes down to depth. You really got to value players a little different than a 10-man. If you got to trade a top-tier wide receiver to get 2 tier 2 wide receivers, or even a 2-tier, second-tier and a third-tier wide receiver, it might actually pan out for you. Opposed to in a 10-man, you kind of want to stack those heavyweights. So that's basically what I've seen as far as the difference between a 14 and a 10-man.
Also, I never asked Ryan this question, but you're also a commissioner of your own league that we play in, me, you, and Frankie. What's the biggest thing about being a commissioner, and how do you keep everybody in your league happy?
Well,
leave everything up to the league vote. Sorry, Deli.
Oh, no, you're good. Well, I've been doing the same league for what's it be, year 8 this year?
Shoot, I feel like we've been playing that league for like year 10.
Yeah. Thing is, I've learned that you can't ever keep everybody happy at all, ever. There's always going to be naysayers, no matter what, whether it be like a bad trade goes wrong and you got to make that decision as commissioner, like, hey, we just got to like put this through or put it to a league vote to like just veto it all together. And then just trying to keep people active, which might be the hardest part of being a commissioner. It's like you want to help drive your league, but you get a few stubborn people in there. And then as far as scoring goes, just kind of like if there's anything that needs to be changed, put it to polls in the offseason. That way people can discuss, see what's going on. Just like you said with the defense thing, like stuff like that happens every year. But yeah, being a commissioner is tough and it's not fun all the time. But it still feels good to like end of the year run a clean league through this long.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of your points there. I mean, it's pretty spot on. You're never going to make everybody happy, no matter if you guys all grew up best friends. Somebody's going to be argumentative about something.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of brush it to the side and realize it's just fantasy. But like we said earlier, we agreed on something in the off season, like we said, with the vote. And then when it came down to do it this offseason, everybody backed out. It was like, oh, I didn't agree on that. So
yeah.
That's the tough decisions that you have to go through as a commish. So then you put it up for a poll again. And then it's like, what's the point of doing a poll if we're just going to
stay out of being a commish altogether? I'll just have all the fun.
Yeah, communication is the biggest thing when you're a commissioner. Honestly.
You just said you're going to make another league.
Yeah, we wanted to make another league. I'm already run the basketball league, Frankie. I put that up to you, bud.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later.
All right. Well, today, boys, we're going to talk wide receivers. Frankie, Deli, this is your cream of the crop. This is where you live. You guys love these position players. Before we get started diving deep into these players, I got to know who's your dynasty wide receiver one, because it's 1A, 1B. You're splitting hairs between these two guys that I'm thinking about. So who's number one and why?
For me, I'd have to go with Jamar Chase. I was late to the party on Jamar Chase. I'm not even going to lie about it. Him taking that year off at LSU kind of skeeved me out a little bit. Not playing football for a year, I wasn't expecting the blow up coming into year one like that. But the way that man just gets out of his routes and gets the ball in his hand and just explodes is wild. The connection that him and Burrow have is second to none. I mean, obviously they've been playing for years like that, so super tough to even find something like that. Like we said last time, I'm not even sure they're going to commit to Cousins long term after this contract's up. So who knows who Jefferson's quarterback is going to be a couple years from now. So Jamar Chase, for me, gets the nod over Jefferson, even though like you said, it's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Good deal. I said the same thing.
I'm in the same boat with Jamar.
Yeah, I said the same thing. In a couple of leagues, I do have the stack of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I was very lucky to have that. It's a hell of a stack to have for a long time. Like you said, you don't even know who's going to be throwing Jefferson the rock in 2023. We're going to have to see to find out, but that's nothing against anybody that has Justin Jefferson at wide receiver one. I understand the talent. I understand, I get it. He's a beast. But diving down into it, AJ, who do you have? I'm assuming you have Chase too.
Mine's a little different.
Really?
I do have Jamar Chase at 1. The age factor, him and Burrow, I think that connection is going to be there for a long time. But my 2 is not Justin Jefferson. It's Cooper Kupp. I think what Kupp did, outside of being 28 years old, is just I don't think it's ever been done. I could be wrong. As far as the Triple Crown for wide receiver, granted it was 17 games, but I mean the man. He led the league in yak by almost 100 yards over Debo, but I don't know if Debo's really counted with him being a running back. I don't know how that factored in with a lot of the catches out of the back. But and then I think he had 26 targets inside the red zone, which was almost 10 more than anybody in the NFL. I did see that at the Super Bowl, which I thought was pretty insane. As many targets as they have in the red zone. And him and Stafford just seemed to connect from day one. and Stafford's not going anywhere. This is Stafford's best team, best coach. He's never had any team like this. I mean, we all know where he came from in Detroit. He got away from Detroit in the first year. He goes and wins the ring. I mean, Cooper Kupp, I think this is his prime. So that's why I have him at 2. If he wasn't 5 or 6 years older than Jamar Chase, I'd probably have him at 1.
I like that.
So, like, the whole age thing with Cooper Kupp, it doesn't worry you. Like, Jefferson's my 2. So, but I've noticed with Cooper Kupp, it's just like you go like 2-3 years of Kupp maybe, and you have like 6-7 of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase or
Kupp's going to be 29 when the season starts too, not just 28.
So age isn't like a concern for you?
Well, I live in a 2 or 3 year window. You can ask these guys. I have Aaron Rodgers in both my leagues. I'll worry about that when it happens. Like they said earlier, I have Travis Kelce as well. I don't see Cooper Kupp retiring anytime soon. So if I can get 2 wide receiver ones for the next 2 years and then try to ship him off or have a building block underneath of him, I think I'll be pretty set. I'm pretty good about establishing my starting lineup and getting some building blocks underneath of him. Also acquiring draft picks, So that's kind of how I look at it. I don't factor in age a ton at the wide receiver position. I was a big Julio guy until he completely fell off the map last year. Injury caught up to him, but granted, Frankie can correct me wrong. He's the biggest Julio fan I know. I think he was 30 last year, 31 this year.
32.
31 last year, yeah.
So, I mean, he played well until he was 30. I'm not comparing Cooper to Julio as on a talent standpoint. Julio's arguably a top 15 wide receiver of all time. Frankie would say top 5 probably. But,
top 15. That's the wildest thing you've ever said on anything.
Yeah.
That's the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard. But go ahead.
Yeah, whatever. I might be a little biased, but it is what it is. But so that's kind of where I stand out with age for fantasy. I live in that 2 to 3 year window. If I feel like he's fading off, then yeah, they're trying to call you. So sorry about that. I was getting a call.
And I totally respect the Cooper Kupp thing. Obviously a breakout year. Cooper Kupp has been fantasy relevant for the last 3-4 years now. Like I say, on the various QBs. I mean, he did it with Jared Goff, so I understand that. Between Stafford, McVay, Kupp, Robinson, if OBJ signs back, that's still up in the air. This team is dangerous. The biggest thing we covered with the whole Stafford thing, and me and Frankie and Ryan talked about it last week, was the O-line depth that he lost this offseason. And Frankie makes a good point. It is hard to develop O-line, offensive linemen in this league at this point, especially when he had the depth that he had. Does that concern you at all? Probably not, right?
If it was a running back, yeah, it would definitely concern me a lot more. I don't like that backfield at all. I'll stay away from that. I mean, we don't need to discuss backfield tonight. But as far as, Cooper Kupp, they utilized him in a ton of bubble screens last year. They get the ball out quick to Cooper. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker. So losing Whitworth, that hurts. I don't know how the man would stand at an elite talent at 40 years old.
Yeah.
But somehow he was doing it there. They got it done. They got him a chip, and he retired. But I'm sure McVay has something up his sleeve, like you said.
So I just want to get something on the record here real quick, AJ.
Yep.
So you're telling me, just if you're in a startup draft and you got like pick 5 and Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp are sitting there on the table, you're taking Cooper Kupp over Justin Jefferson in a startup.
Yes.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Conviction. I like it.
You guys have drafted me of drafts. You guys should know that I'm pretty serious when I say something like that.
So you kind of like live in win now mode, just like 24/7.
And win now. I've never went through the rebuilding stage. As fun as it looks, I don't like to lose.
God, no, he doesn't.
So that doesn't. The age doesn't really bother me that much. like I said, I went out and actually traded for Rodgers this
Oof.
offseason. I traded for Rodgers from Chalmers. I gave up Jalen Hurts, who I don't think is going to be a starter next year.
Yes,
Oh,
Ryan, that was AJ. Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So Ryan, I'm gonna let you take this one off. I'm gonna let you take this one. To me, I have him on my biggest offense or free agency winner list. To me, top 5 dynasty wide receiver as well. I can't say a year 3 breakout because he goes over 1,100 yards last year. Dude's a stud. Was blessed to wear number 88 in Dallas. That's a very special thing. One of my biggest offseason free agency winners is CeeDee Lamb. I know you have a lot of shares of CeeDee Lamb as well, so I'm gonna let you take this one. What do you love about CeeDee Lamb?
Honestly, with CeeDee Lamb, he's ultra talented. But I think the biggest and best thing he's got going for him is the sheer volume he's going to get this year. You see the removal of Cooper get shipped off. Cedric Wilson's gone. Maybe signed Gallup, but you need it too at the end of the day for any elite receiver, at least I see in my mind. Great route runner, attacks the ball. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. He's my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty for what it counts for. I'm super excited, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in like the 130 target range this year, which is just gonna eat out for production-wise for the season. I think we're gonna see a big step up from 1,100, but I might be a little bit higher on CD. And like you said, I have him in like 3 of my 6 Dynasty leagues. Still trying to buy him anywhere I can, but he's hard to buy.
Yeah, just for reference, the amount of targets that opened up between CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson is about 164 targets that is vacated in the Dallas offense. CD hit 120 targets last year amongst 160. I could see him pushing around the 145 range. Granted, the second half fall off, it was a drastic fall off for CeeDee Lamb from the first half of the season. I can't explain that. I don't know why Dak didn't want to get him the ball. I have no idea. You can see it in the playoff loss as well. He was not heavily targeted in that game. I have CeeDee Lamb as a huge buy. I have CeeDee Lamb in about 4 leagues out of my 9. I'm a big fan as well. Frankie, you like CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna be the detractor here. CeeDee Lamb's not my guy. The way he fell off at the end of the season was tough. The fact that they lost Gallup. Amari wasn't playing, super well. He was playing at Amari level, but CeeDee Lamb was built up to be this guy who was just going to come in and, break the world, be this number 88 playmaker for Dallas. And he just looked like kind of another guy to me. 1,100 yards, good season. I'm not going to take too much away from that. Just expected a lot more out of him. I was pretty high on him coming out of college, and I just haven't seen the uber talent that I saw coming out of college that I expected to see, especially going to Dallas and such a high-flying offense with Dak throwing the ball around the yard so much. It's not unusual to see him throw the ball 30, 35 times. So, just the volume there is heavy, and just the production out of CD since he's come out of college just hasn't been what I've expected. Again, he hasn't been disappointing by any stretch, but just not the guy I was expecting out of college, especially in such a high-volume passing offense like that.
AJ, me and you in this offseason, I tried to work a deal out with you, Dak and CeeDee Lamb in the deal. You told me you weren't interested in CeeDee Lamb. Can you explain that?
Frankie pretty much nailed it on the head there. I'm not really high on Lamb as well. Like you said, why didn't he get the volume when Gallup went down? Amari wasn't being featured as much. Does Dak and him have some type of issue with each other that we're not seeing, that's not on the field, that's behind the scenes? I'm not
Zeke's
sure.
Not getting targets.
Yeah, the superstar potential that everybody's hoping for, I just have not seen it yet. An increase of only 7 targets from year 1 to year 2 isn't the leap that you want to see from your first round pick from year 1 to year 2, especially in that offense, that high octane offense with a Dak Prescott who can sling that thing. And he's only getting 120 targets. Granted, I know Amari's there, Cedric Wilson's there, Dalton Schultz was there. I just have not seen the leap. He's a very talented wide receiver. That superstar that everybody's hoping to see. I'm not sure if he's going to be that superstar, and I could kind of see him migrating towards what Amari Cooper did with his beginning of his career. where he came out the first year, had a real solid year, kind of just stayed content with the level that he was at, never took that leap to be in that top tier. And that's kind of why I fade him. I don't have him near as high as you two do.
Yeah. Like I said, that's the best part about fantasy football is that everybody has their different opinions and views.
Absolutely.
But I do want to speak on one guy that me, you, and Frankie have all owned in the same league. Obviously, an uber-talented wide receiver, elite-level talent. Biggest issue is staying on the field. Let's talk about A.J. Brown, boys. You know what I mean? Dude's a stud. He is a monster.
Yeah, monster.
Julio Jr.
See, the only thing about A.J. Brown that I don't like, and I owned A.J. Brown, he missed, I want to say it was 5 games for me in the regular season. Those 5 games were huge, especially in that playoff stretch where we played. And my schedule was really rough. I had AJ, I had Frankie, I had Cody, and I had Joey in the same four-game stretch. That's extremely tough. If you guys don't know the basis of our leagues, AJ, Cody, Joey, tough teams in our league. Very well-rounded teams. It's a dogfight up top in our league. AJ Brown really fucked me. But other than that, man, like I said, super talented, big body guy, gets the ball at its highest point, isn't afraid to attack the ball at any point during the game. Monster after the catch. But, Frankie, I'll let you talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, man. So A.J. Brown's just a guy that, like you said, athletic freak. And the way he runs his routes is super, super athletic. He's just in and out of his breaks. He attacks guys off the line. So if you want to try to get him pressed up, you're not going to have no luck because he's just going to beat you up with his hands too. And then you're going to sit there looking silly. So guy that I said Julio Jones Jr., but he's not quite there yet. But guy that has that kind of potential, that kind of athletic potential. You see him get his hands on a slant and he can take it 15, 20, 30 yards, even further if, the safety's up in the box like those modern defenses have been for the last couple of years. So A.J. Brown's just a guy, 25 years old. Only 63 catches last year, so had a little bit down, especially with the injuries. But, 5 receiving touchdowns, not too bad when a guy, again, with 63 catches. So not too bad every 10th catch almost, or every, 12th catch is turning out to be a touchdown. So not awful, but just a guy you want to see, maybe put together a full season. But once he gets that under his belt, just like Julio, again, Julio started his career missing just games after games. And then once he got that stuff under his belt, he was Mr. Consistent. You could rely on him to be there for a minimum 14 to 16 games every single season. So A.J. Brown, just got to see him do it. But once he gets there, man, it's going to be super scary. 1,000 yards. He had 50 less yards last year. I'm sorry. I misread my stat year. 105 targets last year. So still a guy getting a lot of volume even without being on the field.
And I guess my other question is, when you build around the Tennessee offense and you have your wide receiver 1, does the run-heavy scheme, do you think it affects A.J. Brown's outlook as being a high-level wide receiver 1 as opposed to a lower-end wide receiver 1?
No, so I think that works out in his favor. He's going to have a lot of stack boxes. Like I said, them safeties are going to be creeping down. So a lot of opportunities to run those hitches, those slants, all those short routes. You have a lot of opportunity to break those when you're having to worry about Derrick Henry just beating up your defensive linemen and your linebackers. So you're bringing down that extra help. And that just does nothing but open up that second level for A.J. Brown. So I think that is a super benefit in his favor. So offense that is very beneficial for him, I think.
And AJ, you just acquired AJ Brown in our league. It was a trade for Justin Herbert. You also acquired Deshaun Watson in that deal. Huge deal. Huge deal.
Yeah, a lot of rust there.
A lot of moving pieces there. You care to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll elaborate a little bit. So it was very hard to give up Herbert, obviously. So I gave up Herbert, Kareem Hunt, and Keenan Allen for Deshaun Watson, A.J. Brown, T.J. Hawkinson, and Juju. So I thought it was a piece or a deal that can give me a little bit of a foundation. I acquired Hawkinson in 3 leagues that I had Kelsey. I have him as my fill-in for Travis Kelsey. I think he's going to take off in that year 3 at tight end. Granted, he has Jared Goff. I do think he's going to take off. Juju being the one, I got him before Tyreek left. That just kind of fell into my lap. Did not think that would happen. But I'm hoping a lot in Deshaun Watson and AJ Brown. Like you said, I don't think he has more than 105 or 106 targets, something like that, in the season yet, due to injuries. Kind of the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. He's just not getting that volume yet, but I think we've seen more flash out of him. Like Frankie talked about with that slant. I vividly remember that game against the Colts where he got that slant pass about 15 yards out, and he took it 80 yards to the house. And there was 3 defenders behind him. And he just he's big. Like you said, he's kind of like Julio. He really is, especially in open space. It's hard to get to him. He's clean out of his break. He attacks the ball at a high point. He's different. I would love to see him get with a quarterback that can use him just a little bit differently than Tannehill. The trade rumors to the Jets with Zach Wilson kind of scare me as well. I don't think that's much of an upgrade, if anything, to him. So we'll see. I hope he just doesn't get washed away, kind of like an Andre Johnson-esque type of wide receiver. I'm not putting him in the same category. He's only been in the league 2 years. I saw your face, Frankie. Andre's a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying how Andre never had a quarterback. Matt Schaub.
Love to see AJ Brown have an Andre Johnson career, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So.
But AJ, I do want to say something. You acquired Juju before Tyreek left, so I do want to pair these guys together because I did have him before the Tyreek deal as a foundational wide receiver piece. So I think we can talk about him a little bit together. Do you think the addition of Tyreek Hill cuts massively into Jalen Waddle's fantasy value?
No, I kind of think it opens it up more, honestly. Waddle had a yards per target or yards per catch. I think it was right around 8 yards, which actually was a couple yards lower than Jarvis Landry. And he got a lot of hate there in Miami for just being a little slant guy. But Waddle, he set the record for most catches in a rookie season. Tyreek's just going to open that up more. Who'd they have on the outside last year? Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
I think Tyreek, he's going to draw at least 2 defenders away. Just get Waddle a ball. I really think Waddle's going to benefit more than anybody on that team. So the ceiling for him is high, real high to me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I used to think that Waddle might have got taken away from, but I think with that, as long as Tua can keep up with both of them, we could see like Antonio Brown Juju situation where they both eat. So,
Frankie, I know you have shares of Jalen Waddle. I have shares of Jalen Waddle. A lot of people told me I was crazy for still valuing him at that same value I had him set at. And I truly believe he is a top 10 dynasty piece. Everybody was like, man, no way. He's a top 17 piece now. I'm moving him down my boards. I'm scared with Tyreek there. I'm not scared. I love owning Jalen Waddle. I know you're a Jalen Waddle owner, so I'll let you elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, man. Jalen Waddle, just a guy who super fun, man. He just loves to play football.
Are you doing
man. Penguin out there. I love it, Deli. That's my guy. Let's go.
Got the best celebration in football, other than the gritty.
Easily. No. Give me the Penguin, man. He's even a Batman villain. Come on now. Give me the Penguin.
Oswald Cobblepot.
I named one of my teams Oswald Cobblepot. Yep, that's right. Go ahead, man. That's what I'm saying. Jalen Waddle, man. He's just super fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not selling him not selling him any lower than what I had him. The only issue is now for Tyreek Hill, we can flip things a little bit. You're going from let's call it a Bentley, let's call it a Rolls Royce, how you want to look at it, a quarterback, to whatever you want to compare it to. Obviously, we're going into year 3 for Tua. I expect a massive upgraded QB play with him. They brought him, like we said last week, they brought him every piece he needs. The O-line additions, your slot receiver, your other receiver on the outside. To me, it's do or die for Tua. If Tua doesn't succeed this year, he's gone, period. But how do you think playing with Tua affects Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, so Tyreek Hill's the guy I would say is the biggest loser in this whole situation. Like you said, the quarterback situation is a pretty substantial downgrade. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, one of the most talented quarterbacks that we've seen in the league ever, to Tua, who, like I said on the last episode, was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football history, but that hasn't necessarily translated to the NFL. His accuracy hasn't been near what it was, and his arm strength has not been anything that you want to see to take advantage of the speed that Hill has. It's one of the main reasons that people were down on Waddle going to Miami, to be honest with you, is Waddle's big speed guy coming out of college. So seeing him go to a noodle arm guy like Tua was a little skeptical, but Waddle's a guy that doesn't matter where he's going to be. Tyreek Hill's shown a lot of that in Kansas City, so I mean, I still think he's going to be very productive in that offense, and I think getting the head coaching change in there is going to be awesome. I think that offense is going to just explode, but Tyreek Hill going and being a consistent wide receiver one, top 5 wide receiver guy, I think that could fall off this year. Still think he could finish, maybe low end wide receiver one, but Deli, how do you think Tyreek Hill is going to do?
Not bad. He'll be fine. But you're right, man. That is, Steven said, it's like going from a McLaren to like a Can. I hate Tua. I don't think he threw – I could be wrong, but I don't think he threw a single pass over 50 yards last year. And you bring a guy like Tyreek in there who's known for the deep ball, you kind of need to have a quarterback that's going to get it to you. But at the same time, I think Tyreek's like good enough on the field that he'll figure out something, whether it be scheming from their coach to try to get him the ball in the backfield a little bit, try to run some like screens or something. I think they're going to make Tyreek work either way. So I'm not really too concerned. I did drop him a little bit in my rankings, but just going from Mahomes to Tua is tough. We'll see how it works out for him.
My next question is for AJ. You have a lot of shares of Aaron Rodgers. And we talked about it last week. I personally think Aaron Rodgers is going to be fine. One of the most talented quarterbacks we have ever seen play football, and I'm sure you're the same way. But do you think losing Davante Adams hurts him? I mean, obviously it's going to hurt him, but how much do you think it hurts him?
I think that's a little undetermined, honestly. I'm praying for the best, obviously. It shocked me. I did not see Adams leaving. I don't think I would have traded for him, honestly. Because I think his wide receiver one is going to be drafted in May, whether that's Treylon Burks or Drake London, whoever it might be. I think that's who we're looking at for the wide receiver one there. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a career year in receptions. I really don't know what's going to happen there. It's Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, I think he's the most talented passer ever. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback ever because it's obviously Tom Brady, and I would take Peyton Manning's brain over Aaron Rodgers. But as far as throwing the ball, I don't think there's anybody better in the history of the game than Aaron Rodgers, so I think he'll make it work. I still think he'll get high 30s as far as touchdowns, single-digit interceptions. I mean, that's QB1 status to me.
So let's flip the script a little bit. Let's talk about Davante. Obviously, dropping from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr is a huge downgrade. How far off the pedigree do you think Davante is going to fall? Do you think he can still hit that? Let's chalk it up to 1,200 and double-digit scores in Oakland.
Absolutely. I don't see why that can't happen. I think Derek Carr is a talented quarterback. I watched you guys' QB rankings the other day. I actually have him higher than all three of you guys in the QB rankings, especially with the acquisition of Davante Adams. I think it opens it up a little bit more for Darren Waller as well. Hunter Renfro's solid. I mean, Derek Carr has all the weapons there. So Davante Adams, honestly, he's never had weapons like that next to him. So it might give him a little bit more space to open up. Him and Carr have the history at Fresno State, 24 touchdowns together. I mean, I still think that record holds.
Yeah.
So
Going over under 11 touchdowns this year. That's what he had last year with Roger.
I'm going to go over because I think Davante Adams is the most talented wide receiver in the NFL. So for him not to get 11 touchdowns, to me, I think that's not going to happen, I think is what I'm trying to look for there. I mean, not possible, yes. I mean, Derek Carr.
Absolutely. Touchdowns are, fickle. I get it. But
Rodgers.
what about his targets? You think he's gonna have a significant target share and eclipse that? He had 122 catches last year. You think he can do something like that again with Derek Carr, or you think it's going to be more yardage based?
I can see the targets. Josh McDaniels is a pretty smart coach. I think he can make it happen. Will he get that target? I'm not sure. Aaron Rodgers really wasn't working with much. The relationship those two had was unmatched. I think they had a tighter chemistry than Aaron did with Jordy Nelson. Oddly, or coincidentally, he went to Vegas as well, or Oakland at the time.
Yeah.
Just now thought of that. But I can see 120 targets for Adams. If they're smart, they'll give him 120 targets.
Oh, I apologize. No, he had 169 targets. He had 22
I thought you
catches.
said 120.
120
Oh,
catches.
yeah. I was thinking 120 was low. I was like, dang, you only had 10 more than Lamb.
No.
So,
He had
yeah.
169 targets. That's crazy.
I honestly, no, I don't see that. I see 145. I mean, his catch rate would probably be still over 70%. I don't know exactly where that puts you at, but I think that'd be still a wide receiver one.
There's no way he gets the catch percentage. He is 82% catch percentage last year. That's
what I said.
next
Around
level.
70 more realistic than 82. The odds of that happening again. But he also had the most accurate passer of all time with him.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
But 145, I don't think is out of the picture at all.
Targets or catches?
Targets, not catches.
Okay.
He's not slam boy.
Yeah, no. We don't need to talk about him. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, waste of time. I don't even know
anymore. He's like
I don't
Calvin
even
Ridley.
know. Yeah, I don't even know if he loves football anymore. I don't even know if he wants to play football.
Dude, that's what I've been saying for so long, dude. I'm like,
Same.
You work your whole career to be in the league, and you get there, and you just like, 4 seasons into your career, you're like, I don't want to be on the field anymore. Like, what's going on there?
We don't gotta waste time on Michael Slantboy Thomas.
Yeah,
I had to get that out. I hate him.
Same. We don't have enough time to get into how much I hate that man. I still remember all the Julio slander that was coming his way when Michael Thomas was supposedly the best wide receiver in the NFC South. So we don't got to talk about all that.
Well, big news in the NFL today, boys. Stephon Diggs, 4 years, $104 million contract. He's essentially locked into Buffalo for the rest of his career. And you get to play with Josh Allen. I mean, we talked about Josh Allen last week. We don't got to go into it, but just how special is the pairing of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs?
Oh man, they're special, man. Ever since they came in together, once the Bills traded from the Vikings, they've had that connection. And listen, that's his go-to guy. Any situation where Josh Allen's in trouble, he tries to find Diggs as much as possible, especially in the red zone. They got something special, and it's for another 5 years now, and I think you ride Diggs out until the end. Now that he's paired up until the end of his career with Josh Allen, essentially, he's signed until he's 32, 33.
It's a 4-year contract. It's a 4-year extension added on to a 1 year. So putting him at 29 age season, he's got 5 years left in Buffalo.
I think he mentioned that he wanted to retire in Buffalo like yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
He'll be 28 when the season starts, so he's got 5 more. He'll be 32.
Do a little over-under here. Stephon Diggs, I have him in my top 10 for my fantasy or my dynasty wide receivers. I have him coming in at number 8. Solely based on age, obviously, I try to get a little bit more of the younger generational type talent guys on my team first. And so this is probably going more towards AJ because AJ has Cooper Kupp at number 2. Do you see Stephon Diggs being fantasy relevant for the next, let's say 3 years?
Yeah, I have Diggs at number 6 to touch anything. So I love I love Josh Allen. Frankie can vouch for me. I was big on him coming out of Wyoming. I know you don't
Only
hear
person
that.
I know.
I was like the arm
Hey,
strength.
easy.
I was like,
Sorry,
the arm
Billy. I didn't know you back then when he was coming out.
I've been backing out way too long.
the arm strength was just you couldn't just brush that under. Yeah, his accuracy wasn't well at Wyoming. It's like 56%. I think it was like low 60s the first 2 years in Buffalo, but he didn't have anybody all 3 of those years that I just mentioned. Wyoming.
Woods was there.
Stop. Robert Woods is not Stephon Diggs.
I didn't say. I held my hands up.
Yeah. You know, I don't like USC wide receivers. I'll die on that hill. I know I said something about Juju earlier. But anyway, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are – the chemistry they have is it seems to be growing more and more each game. He's his blanket. He finds him anywhere he needs him. It was surprising to not see him as targeted as I thought he would in that AFC Championship against the semifinals against Kansas City. There was more Gabriel Davis that game. But Diggs signing that contract just shows you how much Buffalo values him, how much Josh Allen values him. And I don't see him going anywhere for at least 3 years. Yeah. He kind of avoids contact. He's more of an out route guy. Gets the ball, gets out of bounds, which is nice. Less hits, the more longevity you're going to have at the wide receiver position. He's not really a bruising type of wide receiver. Kind of a little bit of a reach here, but kind of like an Antonio Brown style. As far as getting the ball and getting down on the ground, quick. Does that make sense?
It makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing. Antonio Brown's a generational talent as well when he was in his prime.
I can't wait to ask my next question.
No, can't wait to answer it. But yeah, I'm a big Stephon Diggs guy. I'm a big Josh Allen guy. So whoever he's throwing the ball to, I want parts of. I actually went out and acquired Gabriel Davis this year in the offseason.
And that's what I want to ask you guys. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on Gabriel Davis. Obviously, we're talking about the elite of the elite here. But that 200-yard game, 4-touchdown performance in Kansas City was a hell of a performance. You know what I mean? There's no way else to chalk it up. So, Emmanuel Sanders gone, Cole Beasley gone. I got a question. Gabriel Davis, top 20 wide receiver season in PPR, yay or nay?
No.
Yeah, I think it might be close, though.
I think there's too many talented wide receivers that's going to outperform him. Can he finish wide receiver 3? Absolutely. But top 20?
So you have him more in like the 25 to 30 range?
Yeah.
I can actually tell you where I have him ranked. I have him on my wide receivers.
I think I had him at 33 on mine.
I got him at 37.
37?
Yeah.
I was going to say 36. I don't have him ranked, but I would say 36. Bottom wide receiver 3.
I think they could take that leap. I like Gabriel Davis, but Stephon Diggs just eats up too many shares.
And since you want to mention AB, prime AB or prime Julio Jones? You're building around one. Which one you taking?
Julio Jones.
Yeah. Easy.
Right.
Easy answer, man.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not.
No, I'm kidding. Honestly, if you're talking fantasy, I'm probably going AB. But if you're talking real football, it's Julio all day.
Give me the big receiver. I like the big target.
I like the big fast guy over the twitchy guy every time.
AB did play pretty big, boys. AB did play pretty big. I mean,
playing big and being big are two different things. Julio's 6'3" and runs a 4.5. So
right. But I guess my thing is, Frankie,
big.
my question is, and my biggest gripe with Julio Jones, and this is, we're not going to, obviously talk about this long, but 6'4", 220, prototypical X receiver, big body dude.
If you say anything about touchdowns, then I don't need to hear it.
That's my question. Inside the 20, in between the 20s, phenomenal.
Throw himself the ball.
I was going to say, can he throw himself the football? That's
I'm just saying, though. So you feel like – so, like, my thing was Calvin Johnson was extremely featured. You know, I mean, granted, we're talking about, you know, Calvin Johnson as opposed to Julio. And, you know, I mean, I get it. But he's the best receiver on the field. He's the best player on the field. What happened? Where's Matt Ryan? Why is he not getting the ball? Can you explain that to me? You watch more Falcons games than I do.
No, I can't explain it to you. I don't think any human alive can explain it to you, up to and including every coach for the Atlanta Falcons for the last decade. But what I'm telling you is he can't throw himself the football. So if you're going to blame touchdowns on somebody, you got to throw that at the quarterback, man. Like
That's fair.
I don't got nothing for you on that.
That revolves back to why I said he's a top 15 wide receiver. Granted, if he had more touchdowns, he might crack my top 10.
Jesus. Okay.
What's going to skip over AB though? Like, I think you guys might have forgotten how good he was. Like, it's been a few years given, but
it was really good. There was no.
I said if we're talking fantasy, give me AB. The numbers AB put up are incredible. I'm not forgetting.
On the field.
He's talking about like the legacy that AB led. If you look at it from 2011 until let's say 2018, because that's the best stretch of his career. Now, granted, he did have a 1,000-yard receiving season in 2010. The massive touchdown numbers didn't start coming until 2011, but he left a legacy on the field. Granted, he's crazy now. You know, I mean, I think that Vontaze Burfict hit did him no justice. I think that messed him up for life. But to me, I don't see how AB's not considered in your top 10, top 15 receivers of all time as well.
Oh, I didn't say he wasn't. You asked between Julio and AB,
man. Fair enough.
I'm telling you, give me the 6'3", 4'5" guy every single time. That's my answer.
See, both.
Fair enough. My next thing is, though, getting back to these guys, modern guys. We talked about Jamar Chase. We talked about how special he was. But we have yet to talk about his counterpart. Most wide receiver twos obviously are an afterthought. But in fantasy world, T. Higgins is a true wide receiver one, even though he's a wide receiver two on his own team. I'll let you guys talk about T. Higgins a little bit, but do you think they are the best wide receiver combo in the NFL?
No, I would say that belongs to the team down in Tampa. But that's still tough. I think I would rather have Mike Evans than T. Higgins. I would obviously rather have Jamar Chase than Chris Godwin, but I think the combination of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans is better than the combination of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
What did you say, Buccaneers fan, man? I know you want to talk about it. Come on.
I won't chime in too much. I'd rather have the Bengals duo. I think T. Higgins takes a step this year. I think he could lead the league in touchdowns. That's the type of talent he has. Jamar Chase, he draws a ton of attention. We've already talked about him, the way he stretches the field. If they utilize Higgins in the red zone a little bit more, I could see him getting a 15 touchdown season under his belt. I don't think it's too far out of grasp for him. He's really talented. He's got to have the pieces fall into play. Granted, he's only played 14 games each season. I would like to see him play a healthy season because I think he had an injured year his last year at Clemson. I could be wrong there. But he's been talented. He's always played with an elite quarterback from Lawrence to Burrow. But I could see him taking a big leap. I'm a big fan of T. Higgins.
I heard AJ say a lot of stuff there, but all I really heard was him say he hates Mike Evans. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Deli. Go ahead.
No,
I don't want to talk much, you know.
Listen, I don't take anything away from T. Higgins. It's just it is scary for him to be the two in the system with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, or have that, like, I think best connection in the league now that Rodgers and Devontae have split. Yeah. I think 15 touchdowns is – I don't think you're ever going to see that with him. It's tough, man. Like, how do you have Jamar Chase on the field and you know what I mean? It's so weird. Like, I get
Burrow. Burrow. I
with
27 touchdowns between these two wide receivers.
What was that?
I could see a 27 touchdown season between the two wide receivers in 1 year. A 15 from Higgins and 12 from Chase. Burrow still throwing 40 on the season. I could see that.
I mean, yeah, but that's like completely disregarding running back touchdowns, tight ends, wide receiver threes.
Yeah, I don't think
other boys in the field. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to get some touchdowns.
A lot of volume.
It is.
Yeah.
They just signed a tight end that came from the Falcons. I can't even think of his name.
Hayden Hurst, but they still got Uzama.
No,
Yeah,
Uzama's with the Jets.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
I don't see him being much of a factor. Mixon might catch four touchdowns there. Boyd, yeah, he's solid, but how long is he going to stick around as a wide receiver 3? I think he has the talent to be a wide receiver 2 somewhere else. I don't know how long his contract is up for. I haven't really paid too much mind to his contract. But I mean, Burrow's contract that's approaching. He's in year 3 now. Are they going to be able to re-sign Boyd next year? I don't think they will. I think their focus needs to keep focusing on the offensive line. They made good additions this year with Collins and Kappa, and guy that came over from the Patriots. I think it was a center. I could be wrong. But
yeah, it was a center. And AJ, just for reference, Tyler Boyd signed a 3-year extension last year with a opt-out after 2023. So he is locked in this year, and but a possible opt-out in 2023, just for reference when you were talking about it.
Yeah, he could be a cap casualty next year. I don't know. He wants to make some more money somewhere else. I can see it. I like Boyd. I think he's talented out of Pitt. But circle back to what I was saying. I just think T. Higgins is really talented. Burrow's got all the talent in the world. You saw the leap that he took from year 1 to year 2 off of the ACL tear. Jamar Chase is still trying to find the laces on the ball. If he can, I think the offense can take off even more. Like, I really like the Bengals offense, what they did last year, the additions they did this year. So, like I said, two wide receiver combos, yeah, they can hurt you at times, but I can also see it working in their favor. He might not have 75 catches, but I mean, if he could be a red zone target, get 15 touchdowns, I could see that. I mean, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Godwin had 98 catches last year, missed 3 games. Evans still had 14 touchdowns. I like Godwin in fantasy more than I do Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a better wide receiver in real life, but I think Higgins can complement Chase enough to get 15 touchdowns.
Yeah, we got to get this to Mike Evans somehow, guys. AJ's throwing so much shade his way.
We are.
God,
I have
Mike
my way to
Evans
get to
shade
Mike
coming
Evans.
from AJ.
But my biggest thing was, if you look at their postseason run, to be honest, T. Higgins was better than Jamar Chase during the postseason. Obviously, that's not a thing in the regular season, but T. Higgins really shined. Obviously, the missed PI in the Super Bowl, because obviously that was a blatant PI against Jalen Ramsey that went for 50 deep.
Yeah.
But 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, led all receivers in, other than Cooper Kupp, second in yardage for all receivers in the postseason. T. Higgins had a monster postseason, Deli, and I do think that can translate into the regular year going into next year. But my next question to you guys is, obviously there's going to be a viable change at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, or what I'm hoping, because I'm high on Trey Lance. I really am.
Yes,
Please
you are.
trade Jimmy. Please trade Jimmy G. Jesus Christ. But
Nobody wants.
do you guys see, and I don't think there's no way they can't or they can do this, but Deebo Samuel keeping that same versatility role, like can you see 50, 60 snaps or touches out of the backfield again, and like can you see his role, continuing to be the same and him being as dominant?
So I don't see his role staying the same per se, but I can definitely see the production staying relatively similar. I'm blanking on the OC who just went to Miami. I'm blanking on his name, but I think he was a big part of that running game. So losing him is probably going to impact Deebo a good bit. There was actually some stuff going around on Twitter today saying that Deebo was deleting 49ers stuff off of his Instagram. So you know how that usually goes. He's just trying to get his money. But yeah, I could see Deebo still having a lot of the same production. Maybe not in the run game, but I'll maybe getting an increase in targets and hopefully staying healthy through the entire season, because that has been another thing that's been hindering Deebo up a little bit. Is I don't think he's finished the season all the way through, all 17, 16 games, however many games it is now. I don't think he's been able to get through all of them, but yeah, I think Debo is still going to be one of the top assets in the wide receiver market in fantasy football.
Especially if he gets that running back versatility.
If he gets running back versatility, then I think he's one of the most valuable pieces in fantasy football, period. But that's another story for another day until he gets it.
See, I don't even know what it would be for that. I know in baseball it's 10 games in another position, but I don't even know what it would be, how many touches he would need as a running back for that to happen.
Well, it happened to CPAP, but I don't know how many games as well.
I don't even know if there's like a baseline because they just did it for Ty Montgomery when they switched his position at the Packers. Like he was a wide receiver one day and they were like, hey, he's playing running back now. So they just gave him dual versatility. So I don't know. Fantasy football has a threshold.
Yeah, that's a great question. I need to find the answer to that. How do you get running back wide receiver versatility like Cordero, Ty Montgomery, guys like that? I need to know the answer to that, by the way. But
honestly, with Debo, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's so good once he gets the ball in his hands. It's hard to take him down. So I think they keep him in the run game as much as possible, to be honest. Plus, they're always shaky in their running back room anyway. So why not just give the rock to him, see what he can do? He was great on the run.
Absolutely, Deli. And Shanahan's weird cat loves to play favorites, and Debo seems to be his favorite. So I can see Debo having a lot of that same production. Just again, maybe not as many touches in the run game, but still just getting crazy looks. Maybe a little bit more bubble screens, getting the ball in his hand quick. But I can definitely see Debo being top 6, top 5, even top 2 guy if he's like he was last year getting those touches. So I'm a big Debo guy. So that's all I got on Debo.
The next thing I do want to talk about, I mean, this free agency has been wild, absolutely wild free agency. One of the craziest I've seen in a long time, if not the craziest. We talked about it last week, the Russell Wilson trade to Denver. I want to talk about my biggest offseason, like for a standpoint of wide receivers, the biggest offseason losses, like as a player, as a position player. That's got to be DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I'm going to pair them together. Let's talk strictly about this wide receiver room. You go from first ballot Hall of Famer Russell Wilson to Drew Lock. And I'm not saying that Drew Lock's going to be guaranteed to start. But if you own DK or Tyler Lockett, you got to be concerned, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can elaborate on that all day. He's also on my biggest losers list, easily number 1. I can't really put Tyler Lockett up there because I think he's getting towards back in anyway. But DK Metcalf's so young to not have a quarterback. It's kind of like you're wasting the talent. I know there's trade rumors for him to go around, which can put him back on the winning side of things, but I really don't see Seattle moving him. To be honest, he's too good. Like you said, same with A.J. Brown, just a physical freak out there on the field. But if he goes forward with Drew Lock, man, that production is going to be drastically different than it was with Russell Wilson. And that's not to say they won't go draft the quarterback, but even the quarterback's not going to be any Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. Neither of them are going to be Russell Wilson out of the gate. So it's tough to see. We'll see what happens with him this year.
Yeah, DK, a guy that I love DK talent-wise, but fading him pretty heavy. I don't think his production is going to take as big of a hit as Lockett. Lockett and Russ had a crazy type of rapport that you can't really simulate any other way. So I think Lockett's just a guy. If you still have him on a dynasty roster, you're kind of just crossing your fingers and praying because there's not too much that you're going to get back for him right now. DK, if you can get a solid return for him, I would probably move him. But if you're in a startup league, DK's a guy I would probably take with a lot of caution. And if you can move him after your draft, maybe go ahead and do that. But yeah, DK, that quarterback situation is scary right now.
Yeah, for him to only have 58 catches last year, and a lot of that being because Russ missed 3.5 games. He's going to miss Russ for 17 games now.
Yeah.
How much of an upgrade is Drew Lock over Geno Smith? Honestly, yeah, he's probably a little better. No disrespect to Drew Lock, but he's not Russell Wilson. And like you said, Frankie, you got to take him with caution if you're going to draft him in the startup. You're taking him basically on hope that he gets traded. And me personally, I wouldn't take a player like that. I don't want any parts of anybody on Seattle. And I think his value is too high to even own in a dynasty because you're pretty much stuck with him.
Yeah, you can't sell him. That's why, I mean, if you have him, you can't trade him. You're not going to get anything near value for what you want for him, especially even last year, trade in the middle of the season. I mean, to now is – I mean, you got to have somebody that's like an ultra DK fan.
Yeah, but if you're trading DK now, you're getting draft value for him, and that's about it. You're not, and it's probably not going to be high draft value either. If somebody's high on Breece Hall or one of these wide receivers, like it's a little tough. But I mean, I personally would still take DK over all of these rookie wide receivers. So that's just me. But you'd be lucky to get a top draft pick for DK. I don't think you get a 2023 draft pick for DK. I think if you can turn around and maybe get a draft pick from this draft class for DK, maybe do that. But again, I personally would take DK over these wide receivers coming in right now. But that's just me. Again, the draft hasn't happened. We don't know where these wide receivers are going to go. If one of these guys ends up with Mahomes or Rodgers or one of these other guys, obviously that changes the game a little bit. But right now, if you can move DK for a draft pick, I would probably do something like that.
But I will say that is false because me and Cody worked out a deal that included DK, and I did end up getting Dak Prescott. So I'm going to leave it at that. In a 14-man league, that was a huge pickup. I'm very glad he decided to take DK.
That was probably trade though, right?
Huh?
That was before the Russ trade, right?
No, it was after.
It was after.
Wow.
So we're going to chalk it up. But I see what you're saying. But I am ready to flip the script a little bit because these two wide receivers are my biggest offseason winners. Like we talked about last week, Cortland Sutton, he did lead the league in air yards last year. I am a big Cortland Sutton fan. Obviously playing with Drew Lock kind of hindered things a little bit. And for how big of a Sutton fan I am, I'm a bigger Jerry Judy fan. Straight up, it is what it is. A lot of people in here play with me. I own Jerry Judy in 90% of my leagues. The QB addition helps a lot. So we'll go ahead. They're my biggest offseason winners of the free agency period. But if you guys want to elaborate a little bit, and I know, Frankie, you were talking about Cortland Sutton, so I'll let you talk about Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, man. Cortland Sutton is just a guy I've been waiting to get into a good situation since he got into the league. I was super impressed with him coming out of college. Obviously, like we just got done talking about, Drew Lock not had the best quarterback situation since he got to the league. Guy, a little bit older, if you think about it. He's 26, or he'll be 26 when the season starts. So dynasty-wise, I mean, he's hitting his prime right now. So I think Cortland Sutton's a guy who if you can get a hold of Cortland Sutton at a reasonable price, is a guy who end up wide receiver 2 for you. Maybe even sneak into that wide receiver 1 category if he can get the touchdown upside. Again, Russ and Lockett had a lot of rapport. And DK and Lockett were both always finishing near the wide receiver 1 market when Russ was at his peak. So if you can get a hold of Sutton, that's somebody I would definitely get a hold of. But Jerry Judy, I haven't been his biggest fan, even coming out of college. So I do like him with Russ. And the age is spectacular. I think this will be his 3rd year in the league, if I'm not mistaken, and he's 22. So that's incredible. The age is wild. 22 years old, 3rd year in the league in a dynasty. With a quarterback of Russ's talent, awesome in Denver where the ball's just going to sail thin air up there. So it's a great situation for those two. Both of them, if you can get your hands on in any capacity, I would say you won that deal. So,
Ryan, care to elaborate? I know you're a big believer in this situation as well.
Oh, I just think Russell ended up in the best spot possible with that offense. We won't talk about Javonte, but that's a huge part of it.
Javonte.
I'm kind of with Frankie here on the whole Sutton-Judy thing. We haven't seen – I like Sutton a lot this year. I think he'll be their touchdown guy. Wide receiver 1 might be stretching a little bit, but if you can get him – he's a wide receiver 2 easily. He'll get you the production he needs. I think we see Russell
sneak into wide receiver 1 with the touchdowns.
Okay, true. But yeah, Judy. As much as I like him, I am a Judy fan. He runs clean, crisp routes. You can't deny that. But
can't deny that at all.
Sometimes he has a little bit of case of the drops. We'll see if he can get that fixed. He is super young, so he's got time to fix it. Hopefully build that repertoire with Wilson over time. I mean, he's there for, 5 seasons he signed for? So they got time to figure it out.
AJ, you've never been a big fan of Jerry Judy. Well, I mean, you were, but then you weren't. So where do you fall on this boat?
I'm back on Judy. I think it was all because of the quarterback play. I like wide receivers that have a good quarterback when it comes to fantasy. I don't want a wide receiver that's got a low end quarterback throwing to him. It's not really a good recipe to win championships. But with him getting Russ, I mean, he easily should be a wide receiver 2 this year, in my opinion. He should be a top 24 wide receiver. Third year, he's 22, like Frankie said. He's got a little bit of experience under his belt now. Now he's got a Hall of Fame-esque quarterback throwing him the ball. His route running is top tier. He trains with Keenan Allen in the offseason, and they're rivals. It just shows you the respect that Keenan has for the young guy. He came out of Alabama. He was one of the best receivers Alabama's had. I think Russ can take him to another level. I do like the upside for Cortland Sutton as well, but I think Judy is the one that you guys should target in Dynasty.
So since you're back on the Judy train, how do you parse out those drops that my man seems to always suffer from since he's come in the league? Can't keep his hands on the balls that hit him right in the hands.
Yeah.
I don't really factor in drops that much. If you guys didn't know, Jamar Chase led the league in drops last year. Mike Evans has led the league in drops before.
Your favorite wide receiver of all time, T.O., had case of the drops.
Big time. It's just it happens. I mean, you gotta just move on. I mean, it's part of the game.
Yeah, I would also like to elaborate on that. Deontay Johnson 2 years ago led the league in drops. This year finished in a bottom 5% of the wide receivers in drops. It all comes down to the work you put in the offseason. It all comes down to that. I see Jerry Judy based off pure talent, just being the route runner he is, being crisp, being clean, getting open against any corner. If the drops do, if they do subside, I'm all in with AJ. I think Judy's the wide receiver to own.
Oh, just so we're clear, you still buy Judy in your situation.
Same, yeah. Like I said, if you can get one of those two guys in a deal, I think you won the deal. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm not fading Judy.
Yeah,
for sure. So now we got the offseason winners and losers. I got some some questions for you guys. Obviously, and this all values of opinion. If you're selling a wide receiver right now, there's a wide receiver you don't want on your roster. You want to sell him. And obviously, let's chalk DK out of it just because we know the QB play is going to be awful. But DK, realistically, is still one of the premier dynasty pieces to own first. Obviously, a short-term situation sucks. But let's chalk DK out of it. If you have to sell a wide receiver, who are you selling if you don't want any parts of them?
Are we talking about people we've already talked about or no?
No, let's just chalk it up for sales. If you had to sell, who are you selling?
I'll kick it off. He's not really my number one seller, but we are playing Dynasty here. You have teams that are chasing rebuilds, guys that are looking for younger people. My sell this year, I don't own him, so I can't sell him, but if I did, I would. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had a great end of the season, but this is without Swift and Hawkinson at the same time, and they just added DJ Chark in the offseason. So to get that target percentage, I want to say it was in the low 30s when he was going
32% to be exact.
Yeah, you're definitely going to see that decrease. If you can get somebody to chase Amon-Ra and give you some type of value for that, I'm all for it. Like I said, I just don't think that going into the next season he's going to be able to keep up with the numbers. Definitely going to see a decline at least.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty solid sell. A lot of I've seen him rise in a lot of people's rankings, and I just can't quite understand it because, like AJ said, I'm not really looking to get guys with bad quarterbacks, and I don't think the Lions have a quarterback. So, I don't know why you would want that wide receiver. But a couple guys I'm fading, but I'll go with the primary guy. A guy I've been fading a couple of years now, DeAndre Hopkins. Talking about age, I think he's going to be 30 when the season starts. I honestly think he's going to probably have a pretty productive season this year, which is why I'm saying to trade him, actually. I think you'll be able to get a pretty solid return from a team who's looking to win now. So if you can move DeAndre Hopkins for a solid return for a bunch of young guys from a guy who, maybe isn't valuing youth as much as you are or something like that, I would definitely fade DeAndre Hopkins and a guy that's kind of in that same vein. I won't mention him right now just in case I take AJ's guy, but I'll go ahead. Go ahead, AJ.
I can't imagine who you were going to say. My number one guy is Devonta Smith. I don't like Jalen Hurts at all. I don't see any type of passing talent there with him. I know that's a little bit dramatic thing to say, but I don't like what they're doing over there with their wide receiver room. They seem to not be able to hit on wide receivers, as they missed with Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I think Smith is falling right into that as well. They're not really helping Smith at the quarterback with the quarterback. I don't think they believe in Hurts. I think they acquired that pick from the Saints to hope to get a higher first-round pick in 2023 so they can try to target a wide receiver. Those wide receivers that tend to get a different quarterback, a revolving quarterback, tend to not ever be that upper echelon wide receiver in fantasy. So I tend to kind of fade those wide receivers, such as like a Michael Pittman. He's another fade for me. That's kind of a bold statement. A lot of people like Michael Pittman. I think he could be fine, but I don't like those revolving doors at the quarterback. You got to learn a whole new chemistry with that quarterback. But Devonta Smith, I think he's a very small guy, fragile guy. He's just one of my sell candidates. I think he has good value in Dynasty. A lot of people are actually high on him. So if you can get somebody that you're actually more keen to having, I would try to flip him for something that you feel more comfortable owning on your team.
I like your guys' bold takes on trading young guys. My second guy was Keenan Allen, just same vein as DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's gonna have a pretty productive season with Herbert. So if you can move on from a guy like D-Hop or Keenan Allen in terms of getting somebody younger, I think that's a solid move.
Yeah, Frankie, I'm in the same boat as you. My biggest sell, and no disrespect to this guy because he's the most consistent wide receiver we've seen since he's come into the league. I'm selling Mike Evans. No disrespect to Mike. I actually think his value is the highest it's been, obviously, since the Brady retirement. You're going to juice the orange here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he wants one last ride. He might want two more rides. I don't know what it's going to be. But the minute Brady retired, the wide receiver stock hit the floor. Me personally, that's how I look at it. So right now, Mike Evans is going to be 29 going into the year. I'm looking to acquire younger draft assets. And like I said, this doesn't mean Mike Evans isn't going to have a good year. I still think Mike Evans is a top 10 PPR receiver this season. I still think he's going to be top 3, top 5 in touchdowns. But, yeah, I'll sell Mike Evans.
Anybody want to touch on any buys? Any buy highs right now?
Yes.
Allen Robinson.
Okay.
Allen Robinson, Penn State alum.
I like it.
440 yards or something. I know
That's
Frankie. I think he has a big upside this year. Definitely.
Allen Robinson.
And put that in the past and kind of move on. Him and staff, what can come with that. That's one of my big buys this year. If you can get a piece of him, I think he'd be a solid wide receiver too for you.
AJ, do you own Allen Robinson in your league?
I do. I had him all last year on my bench.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if you owned him in your league. My biggest buy this offseason is Terry McLaurin. Granted, a guy whose value faded over last year. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the Taylor Heineke story wasn't cool. Obviously, kid plays with a lot of grit, plays with a lot of heart, but was never going to be a starting quarterback. Fitzpatrick goes down last year. What could have been? But believe it or not, this is the best QB that Terry McLaurin has ever played with. Believe it or not, last year Carson Wentz had a 72.5 percentage, like when it comes to the deep ball, on target deep ball percentage, and his air yards of that was around 8 when it came to that. So that's actually a really solid number. He was top 5 in the league in those positions or those categories. Carson Wentz is actually a good thrower of the deep ball. If you notice, Heineke wasn't. So I'm excited to see McLaurin play with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, man. Terry McLaurin, I definitely agree. Buy high guy or a buy guy in general. I just bought him in a league, so I definitely agree with that statement. Guy I'm buying high on, guy Deli and AJ both just said they were selling. Michael Pittman. I think the Colts just committed to Matt Ryan for at least 2 more years, so you're going to get that consistent quarterback play. Regardless of how you feel about Matt Ryan, I think he's as good or better than Carson Wentz. I know AJ doesn't necessarily always agree with that statement, but I personally think Matt Ryan still got as much as Carson Wentz does in the tank. So Michael Pittman, a guy who just big body guy. I do not hate USC wide receivers the way AJ does. He's got an irrational hatred for them that nobody can explain, including him. I like Michael Pittman a whole lot. I think getting a quarterback of Matt Ryan's stature in there who can be a little bit more consistent for him is going to be huge. He can finish, again, in that upper wide receiver 2 range for you. Maybe even, again, approach that wide receiver 1 because I don't see a lot of touchdown threats in that offense outside of him and Jonathan Taylor. So Michael Pittman, huge touchdown upside, I think, large target share in that offense. So if you can get your hands on him, Michael Pittman's a big buy guy for me.
Yeah, very valid points. One more guy I want to talk about as far as a buy is actually bought this receiver 1 week after the season ended in 2 different leagues. I just wouldn't pay what this team paid this receiver. That's Kirk. I went out and bought him I had a feeling he was going to go somewhere with a good quarterback. I actually, in my gut feeling, thought he was going to be a Buffalo Bill. So I went out and got him. I was like, man, him and Josh Allen, I think that would be huge. I did not think a team would pay him $78 million. It's a little much, I must say. 5th highest paid wide receiver of all time. He hasn't done he was solid last year. I think he had over 1,000 yards, 75 catches. I think he can be real solid if Trevor Lawrence takes that leap that everybody expects him to. It's basically his rookie year now that Urban Meyer's out of there. So I'm hoping Christian Kirk can be that wide receiver 1 for 3-4 years for Lawrence. I'm not looking for him to be a wide receiver 2. I think he's a really, really solid flex option. I'm not exceeding his expectations, but if you can play him every week as a flex option, I think that'd be a key asset into making a championship run this year.
Yeah, I actually had Christian Kirk on my winners list, not because of on-field, but just because the money got paid. That's insane. Good for him and his agent. Just want to say that.
Yeah, those 2 are geniuses.
Just to get somebody different. We kind of touched on Judy, Sutton, like your obvious buys, but I want to talk about one of my guys, Brandon Yuke, for a buy. He had that rapport with Trey Lance in the offseason last year. We didn't see Trey Lance touch the field, but I think we can still see that connection again this year. I understand that Debo is there, but we've talked about it multiple times in this podcast. You can have a team with 2 receivers that are both productive in fantasy. And Ayuk is a big catch guy. I think he averages close to 15 yards per catch this past season, which you can get that consistently. That's huge. I'm excited to see what Trey Lance can come in and do, and I think Ayuk's going to be one of his big guys this season.
Deli, you can ask AJ and Chalmers. He burnt me big last year. I was super into Ayuk coming into last season, so I'm right there with you, man. If he can turn that around, I think he's a huge guy. But I know I'm not host. Just quick question for you guys with all your buys: if you're in a startup, where you drafted him?
Ayuk.
Yeah, no, any of the guys that you said you would buy. So Chalmers, I'll let you start. Where would you buy your guy?
McLaurin. Are we talking? And we're talking a standard league we play in, like AJ's league, Superflex.
Yeah, Superflex Dynasty.
Man, that's tough. I'm a running back guy first, so I'm always going to look to build my team around running backs.
Let me rephrase it. I'm sorry. What's the earliest you would take him?
Let me see.
That's better for me.
I'm thinking a steal for McLaurin because I've seen him fall in 5 mock drafts I did. I've seen McLaurin fall to the 8th round, which I think is crazy to me. Building around, obviously, I think that's crazy. I feel comfortable taking McLaurin. Yeah, it made no sense to me either. I saw him fall to the 8th in a couple mock drafts.
Playing a six-man league?
No, it was 10 teams. It was a 10-team standard, just like AJ's. But it also included all your rookie guys. So Brees Hall and all of them are included in this draft. I feel comfortable taking McLaurin in the 4th, 5th round. If you can get him in the 6th, that's value to me. I was high on McLaurin going into last year. I thought him and Ryan Fitzpatrick were going to make magic. Unfortunately, Fitzpatrick gets hurt early. You play with Taylor Heineke, it kind of subpar situation. Like I said, this is the best QB that he's ever played with in his career, and I can't wait to see him play on the field this year.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you I'm a man of my convictions. I mean, I don't like Pittman as much as I like McLaurin, but I think if you can get Pittman in the 3rd or the 4th round, I think he's going to have that type of target share, that type of touchdown upside that he can end up in that wide receiver one, not the wide receiver one conversation, but in the overall wide receiver ones conversation for the whole year. So I think if you can grab Pittman, just pay the price, and I think you'll be happy with it.
Yeah. See, it's tough for me, kind of like an off question, but I don't know. I was just talking like trade stock value, but I'd probably go Ayuk. He's obviously a lesser guy than like a Pittman or a McLaurin.
Sure.
I target him in like the 6th, 7th round. I don't really want him to be like my wide receiver 1 or 2, but if you can get him as your 3, I think he'd be good there.
I'm in the same boat with Christian Kirk. If it's your guy, you want to make sure you secure him. So you might usually have to take him a round or 2 than you normally would, especially when you see him in a mock draft. Hey, these guys fall into the 9th. More than likely, you're going to take him at the back end of the 7th or early 8th, something like that. As far as Allen Robinson, I think I would reach a little bit on him just because of that offense. Because those were my 2 buys. I would take Robinson probably in the 4th round. I would be confident in taking him as a wide receiver 2. I usually only take 1 running back in the first 5 rounds. I get 1 elite guy, and then I kind of find a filler. I like to stack my quarterbacks, like I said, just to get my 2 quarterbacks early. But, yeah, it's a little bit of a reach on Robinson, but the way dynasty wide receivers are now, they fly off the board. You're usually 10, 12 receivers deep before the end of the 3rd round usually, typically. In a standard 12-man league. I mean, most people play 12-man now. So when you hit that 4th round, 5th round, that's about when I think Allen Robinson should be being in that offense. So that's probably where I would take him. It's a little higher than most would have, but that's why he's one of your guys.
Yeah. I agree with that. Listen, you got to go get your guy before you're in season and you're seeing your guy take off and you're like, damn. I wish.
Yeah, that could have been me.
Yeah, exactly. I always go get my guy.
I agree with that. Anybody else got any extra buys? I mean, AJ had talked about it. He got lucky in the way that the deal broke out for the Justin Herbert trade. Juju is now wide receiver 1. Obviously not the number 1 option there. Obviously Kelsey will always remain that, but Juju being the number 1 wide receiver, I could see that being another additional buy as well. Obviously not a guy I'm going to go out and have to have, but I am intrigued to see what Juju does. Obviously a little bit of bias towards him because he was a Steeler. But he is an interesting buy this year in the offseason that I also agree with too.
Yeah, so I don't have any actual player buys at the moment. These are more contingent buys, but after the draft, if you're in a league that's already going, whoever ends up in Green Bay, whoever ends up in Kansas City, I know I'm forgetting a spot, but whoever ends up with these elite quarterbacks, pay what you got to pay to get those guys, especially in a dynasty league. I mean, these wide receivers. I know this isn't the greatest wide receiver class we've ever had, but this might be one of the better situational wide receiver classes that we've ever had. A lot of these teams need wide receivers, and they're going to go out and get them. And they already have the quarterbacks in place to make these wide receivers effective. So if you're in a league already that's been going for at least a year and you're just doing rookie drafts, I would do whatever you can to get into one of those wide receivers, whatever you can do. That's my personal opinion. I think this wide receiver class is a little bit more special than people are giving it credit for. But yeah, like I said, the talent at quarterback is better for this wide receiver class than I think a lot of the wide receiver classes coming in have been.
So at 101, are you telling me that I have to draft a wide receiver now because of the wide receiver needy teams?
I'm telling you, if you need a wide receiver, I would go get one. That is my advice. I think if you're at 101 and you do not have a wide receiver one on your team, I would definitely reach for one of those guys. But if you're a guy like looking for Breece Hall, I don't think you sneeze at Breece Hall either. He's definitely one of the more impressive prospects at running back we've had out of the last 3 to 5 years.
Now AJ
we'll
can
get
put on the board right now.
Breece 101.
Yeah, Breece is 101. But like I said, if you're a wide receiver needy team, say you got Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins or something, and you're sitting there at 1-1, I would see a situation where you could take Olave if he ends up in Green Bay, or London if he ends up with Patrick Mahomes or something like that.
Well, we'll have a quick timeout with that statement. We actually had somebody in our league, my brother. He traded Kittle and got a pick to me, actually. And with that pick, he passed on Jamar Chase to go get a guy he needed in Kyle Pitts. So I don't think you can always chase.
Tight end's a little different for me. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but tight end's one of those. I'm always a fade tight end guy, and I traded the world to get Kyle Pitts. But
I was about to say you faded tight end.
Listen, no, Kyle Pitts is a different maker to me, but I wouldn't trade like that to get Kyle Pitts. Like if I'm like, oh, Jamar Chase is sitting there, or like, no. That's a drastically different situation. But I agree. Kyle Pitts is a freak. He's a difference maker all around. But if you got George Kittle, what the hell are you trading for Kyle Pitts for? You said he traded you George Kittle, right?
Yeah, it was like a whole deal.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying, if you had Kittle, you didn't need Pitts. You could have just taken Jamar Chase. You already had the elite tight end prospect. Go get the elite wide receiver prospect. So that's just my opinion on the matter. I wasn't involved in that trade, so I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah. You can tell AJ, just put it on the board. Give me Breece Hall now. I don't even care. That's where it's at. Let's go.
All right. Let's say the rookie talk. You gotta say that. Keep that inside.
But other than that, fellas, I appreciate you guys' time tuning in, talking about wide receivers. It was a lot of fun. A lot of great, great information when it came to your guys' buys, your guys' sells. A lot of different ideas, different viewpoints. We got to really crack down and talk about some of the elite wide receivers that play in our game. Obviously some wide receivers we didn't cover, guys that we love, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, guys like that. But I mean, they're all studs. If you roster them, you're lucky to roster them. But a lot of information today was covered. Deli, I think next we got running backs. And that's my cream of the crop. I love talking running backs. It's my favorite position in fantasy football, period. But it's a little bit more of a dicier situation than wide receivers. Wide receivers can run you 35 deep in the league, especially like AJ's where he runs 3 wide receivers and 2 flexes. So running backs, and AJ said too, you have to have one elite running back. So I can't wait to dive in and talk about these running backs.
Yep.
Other than that, fellas, I appreciate your time. I really appreciate you guys stopping by, talking with us. Deli, I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right, fellas.